Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Files Obscura. I know it's been a while, and I know today is a crazy day because it is election day here in the States. Did not plan for this episode to come out on election day, but when I realized when we would be coming back, I knew we had to talk about everything that's been going on. Not only just with, US and US elections and the campaign trail and everything, but there's also been so much going on in our personal lives, with the podcast and everything, and so much development that's been going on behind the scenes since I decided that we should take this month-long hiatus. It just feels, appropriate that we catch you guys up about everything that's been going on. But first and foremost, I'd like to introduce someone new today. He is our current researcher on some future episodes, and he's been helping me out on some of the episodes you're going to start hearing for the next couple of weeks. So I'd like to welcome Peter. How you doing, Peter?
A-OK. Hello, I am indeed Peter, the every now and then researcher for the Files Obscura. Currently, I'm in military service, and because of Corona, my schedule is very hectic. I can only do things about every month, and I am Finnish, so we have now people from just about almost every corner of the world.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, because just recently you got back, what was it, a couple days ago? You finally
Actually,
messaged me?
last Friday.
Yeah, last Friday. Oh, it's already been a week. Holy crap.
It's
Yeah,
already been a week.
for those not in the know, I moved into my new place last Wednesday from the time that we're recording. So it's about a week before this episode actually goes out. And so I've been painting and moving and doing everything nonstop. My life has been hectic, which is a big reason why we took the hiatus. Because I like I said, I just moved into my new place. I'm getting my room set up to be a studio space where we can record. So we're very much in a transition period right now. So we are working on getting like I said, the studio space set up to where we're going to have better quality audio. We're going to have better, more concise recording sessions. But today is going to be kind of our last informal episode.
Have you been curious about starting your own podcast but have no idea where to begin? Well, did you know Anchor is not only free but so user-friendly they leave you no excuse? All your tools that you need to start is found right in the app in a simple layout to help you experiment with recording and editing done in-app. They also help share your content onto other platforms and even let you make money with no minimum listenership. For this no-excuse head start, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Once again, that was anchor.fm.
I know we want to move to something a lot more structured and easy to follow, but like I said, there's just so much going on. We got to address a lot of things. So it's just not going to happen on this episode to be where we want to be. But I feel that's all right. We got a lot to talk about without, spreading too much or telling too much about what's been going on. Long story short, the podcast is, like I said, getting a much needed upgrade from a lot of support. I'm not at liberty to say just yet, but hopefully we'll be able to bring a lot more exciting news your way whenever we get the confirmation. But needless to say, there's going to be a lot more help, more than just Peter. Because, Peter's helping us with the research. We're having people help us with a lot more animations and graphics that we've been wanting to work on. We are talking about merchandise behind the scenes. Nothing's guaranteed at the moment, but there's a lot of things in the work and a lot of things I'm excited to bring out in the future when they're done. Our small little team has grown from just, 3-4 people to now we've got almost 15 people underneath us trying to help out in various ways and stuff like that. So hopefully you will be able to see that within the next 2 weeks whenever we get more high quality episodes out. So with the, like I said, with the restructuring, the move, with 2020, what were we talking about now? The third wave of the pandemic coming through. It's not even the second one anymore that we're worried about. The election alone has consumed my mind.
Things got pretty hectic this whole month, the whole election thing, but also Donald Trump getting COVID-19. I actually thought he was going to die. I think a lot of people thought he was going to die. And, that was wild. It all just kind of breezed by, it just happened and then it stopped happening. And now we're dealing with new shit. So
since our last current events episode, I checked yesterday, that came out June 16th. There has been a plethora of news stories that come out. So many news stories that you would think is like a the tragedy of the year kind of thing. But it happens every other week at this point.
You want to talk about some of
Not
the good
even
stuff?
every other week.
Yeah, let's start with the good stuff because there's a shitload of bad stuff to get into.
I think it's funny that when I think of the good stuff that happened the last few months, water on the moon, Wi-Fi on the moon.
Oh, yeah, they're talking about bringing 5G to future moon bases and stuff like that, which is it's great.
I'm honestly
don't get me wrong.
I'm honestly down for more space exploration. So
I am too. We had the first successful SpaceX launch with the reusable capsule with the Dragon crew,
which is pretty dope.
Yeah, that was monumental. Whew, I was really excited.
And then
Starlink
set up as well at some point.
Yeah, it's but more so than just that, we also had, in more terms of astronomy, we've also found methane gas being emitted in Venus's atmosphere, which is a lot of people were going stir crazy for a minute about that. No, it wasn't methane gas; it was phosphorus gas. My bad. And this being one of the organic, building blocks that people have always looked for as markers or signs of life. It's the specific chemical molecule that we found is not something that we know or understand very well, but it is something that we've been able to witness closely related to organic materials and processes. So it was encouraging to think of life in this new discovery, but again, more testing is required, more observations are needed, so we can't just say there's aliens on Venus right now. We don't know.
Yeah, probably not.
I doubt it, but knowing how 2020 is going, I wouldn't be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, those were exciting things to come out, during this time. But unfortunately, with 2020, good news is so few and far between.
It's kind of overshadowed by literally everything else.
It is. We've got everything going on from the explosion in Beirut to Breonna Taylor's mistrial, with the fucking cops that were supposed to be arrested and, sentenced. They got off scot-free. But like I said, there's so much to get into. So I kind of want to get into not segmented, but I want to focus on a couple things, one at a time. So I asked Peter to help me, look up some of the events that have been going on the past couple months along with me. So we're going to go ahead and read into these articles and get into this episode. But there has been so much going on, with me and talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, dying. That was one of the biggest things that was upsetting because whenever we heard about Donald Trump's nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, I about shat myself. I can't think of more damage one person can do than all the things that she's been talking about, all the policies that she's been ignoring to address, because we know what her answer is going to be. And I'm going to be honest, I don't like the woman. I don't. It's kind of something that reminds me from, what was his name? Thurgood Marshall, where he was talking about, it doesn't matter if it's a white snake or a black snake, a snake can still hurt you. So it's like, that's what I think about in this context with her. With Amy Coney Barrett, it doesn't matter that she's a woman to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. What matters is that she's terrible as a Supreme Court justice. She's talked about there's talks about her wanting to overturn Roe versus Wade. There's talks about her wanting to repeal all kinds of different, female rights and abortion rights and stuff like that, and stuff like that. Which, regardless of your opinions, going back and repealing a lot of the stuff that has introduced progress is not a good idea, no matter your standpoint.
Honestly, that's been the whole Trump presidency from the get-go. It's just, honestly, it's been more, not even building bridges or building walls. It's been tearing everything down. It's been just, any bit of progress that we've been making over the past 10, 16 years just feels like it's being torn down bit by bit. And you know what? I think there's enough good people in this world that I do believe that someone has to care. So there are enough people who care, and there's enough people out there that notice it. But it doesn't really matter, considering that the people who care, the people who want to make a difference, they don't have power right now. And shit, it's all fucked, isn't it?
Yeah, and what's even more insulting is the fact that Mr. Trump went to go ahead and in her memory, went to go to her funeral, being the fucking biggest asshole he could have been. Because all the stuff that he was talking about, what was it, saying stuff like she was useless, her policies were outdated, or weren't thought through well enough, XYZ. and was constantly supporting somebody new, like almost the day that she died, the moment that she died. And then Mitch McConnell didn't help with everything that he's been doing. Like him alone, I could make a whole episode on, but I'm not going to because the man pisses me off. I mean, there was something like 125 proposed bills that he's yet to sign off on because he doesn't want to give Democrats more power.
You could make a whole episode on a lot of topics lately, just in general.
Yeah, and audience, I apologize for being very scatterbrained right now because, like I said, I hope you understand. There's just that much going on, and there's that much to look into. Because I try to focus mostly on the campaign trail and the trial. I got some more notes on riots and the protests that have been happening since then. I know I asked you, Peter, to look up about the pandemic because that in itself is its own problem going on too. I mean, it's crazy, especially in the time that we were on hiatus. Something a little personal actually happened. My dad actually got the virus, and he was damn near sounding like he was on his deathbed. His voice was very weak. He was, coughing constantly. He didn't leave the house for like 2-3 weeks. It was bad. Luckily, he survived, and he's good. And I don't live with my dad, so I didn't see him until after we were sure he was good. But what scared me again was not a week after that, one of my best friends, he came out as positive, and like he was scared whenever he realized like he was losing his sense of taste. But I mean, that was really the biggest thing. He had a couple sniffles here and there, but it was him losing his taste that made me think I got to go get tested. Because luckily I came back negative, and so I was good. I still did the whole quarantine for 2 weeks as much as I could. But as soon as I tested negative, I was like, all right, I'm safe, but still, it's still terrifying.
You still have to be on your guard.
Yeah, you still have to. I mean, and especially because, like, what was it, yesterday or something?
4 days ago.
4 days ago.
A friend of mine got COVID-19, ex-coworker, but, we still see her every once in a while.
Yeah.
She got COVID-19, and her whole family got it too. We don't really know who passed it on, and I guess that's the scary thing is you can never really know because some people are asymptomatic, some people aren't.
Mm-hmm.
We have our suspicions of who it could have been, but and it's pretty scary because some people there's some people out there who are fucked up medically, and they know when they have it that they might not survive, and I feel really bad for anybody who's dealing with COVID-19 and on top of that, everything else. And it's really sad. And even if you're healthy, it can still get you. You never know.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy.
It's like rolling the die.
Because like you said, about the whole, your friend was asymptomatic and everything. Like that was terrifying to me. It was like I could be sick and asymptomatic and have no fucking clue. And I've been around all these people. Like I was terrified.
Yeah. My friend who has it at the moment, she's not asymptomatic. She's definitely experiencing some symptoms. My brother got it, and he was asymptomatic. He doesn't have it anymore, thankfully. It's been a while. He survived. He's good. But it was a bit of a scare because you never know. You never know what's it going to do, what it is going to do to a person. But I think we're explaining something that everybody already kind of knows.
Yeah, at this point, this late in the game, we all are kind of loosely aware of, the pandemic. And unless you're American, you know what to do. You know how to be responsible. For some reason, we still have problems here in the States.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious. Do you guys in the US have like a phone app that tracks you and gives you an alert if you've been nearby someone who tested positive?
Nope. There are Dr. Fauci has made propositions about this in the past, but it was immediately shot down. Why? It was claimed to be too expensive and a needless cost.
We have that here, at least.
I'm utterly confused and pissed off at the way this country's been handling the virus because every other country seems to be doing pretty well relative to us. In fact, there's some places in the world like New Zealand who haven't had a new case in forever.
Well, they recently got some cases. But yeah, no, they were like the longest standing country without new cases being reported. And so much so that the prime minister has actually won a re-election in the landslide because of her handling.
Look at that.
Right? Like when you actually do stuff for the people want you. Who would have thought?
But here's the problem, though. We live in America, and the people don't want to be healthy or live long lives.
No, it's not even that. Like, people want that, but we've been convinced that it's damn near impossible. So we go back to our primitive monkey brains as soon as we see the latest iPhone. It's like, ooh, shiny, and then we forget everything else.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem we're dealing with right now, is that people aren't taking this seriously. And
well, no shit.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, no, you're totally like yeah, everybody knows this. It does, but for anybody who doesn't live in America, I feel like I'm not surprised. I should be, but I'm not, because I'm like, yeah, of course we would we'd run with it for a while. We'd be like, oh, this is dangerous. And then like a month later, we're like, okay, but can I go back to the movies?
Yeah, right. Well, everyone knows Americans are self-centered and stupid and just oblivious to reality.
Yeah.
We can't think anything longer than 5 seconds, because then to us, we don't consider it important. I don't get that mindset. I don't.
I love it whenever
I can say, when I was looking into COVID specifically in the US, listeners, if there's anyone who's not from the US, it is worse than you've heard or can imagine.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm really not.
But I really think it's wild, because there's so many solutions. Okay, so at work, I think it's hilarious whenever people don't wear a mask and they come in, right? I saw this, while I was cashiering. I saw this lady come in not wearing a mask, right? A manager obviously is like, "Hey, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave the store," and then she throws a fit, of course. Because I love seeing this in person, because my manager handles it so well. He's so strict. She was like, "What are you gonna do? Kick me out?" And you know what he says? He's like, "Lady, I think I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." Like,
right? Because like the audacity. Oh my God! You actually have to respect people.
It's like, you're going to ask me to leave? You're gonna lose a customer, and it's like, yeah, I don't care. Like, it's a Dollar Tree. Like,
no, I feel like, dude, like whenever I'm at Jack in the Box, right? We've had customers come in and stuff like that where they don't wear masks because they don't think about it. And I'm the first person that stands up there and be like, "Sir, I need you to leave and put on a mask before you get inside." And they have that moment where they're shocked, like I actually said something. But they also know, because I can put on that attitude pretty quickly, like, don't test me. I will fight you on this. Don't test me.
That is every customer service worker's dream.
Oh, I don't care. I'm openly an asshole, man. If you don't care enough about my existence to not wear a mask in my store, you can get the fuck out. There is something that we have called the right to refuse service, and I use that. I really do.
That is good.
Like, we do sell masks at the front counter, so anytime a person comes in, and like, I'll be extremely respectful. If a person comes in not wearing a mask, and they're like, "Hey, I don't have a mask right now. Do you guys have any?" I'll be like, "Hell yeah, I have one right here. Come to the front." We'll buy you one right now in a second. Because if a person actually forgot their mask and they're looking for one, I will give them to them. If I could, I would have given it for free. I would have just given them away. But I let them know. And I do believe most people care. Most people care. I mean, most people have to care. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing. Some people wear masks, but they're really pissed off about it. They don't like it.
Well, the part that bugs me is, like, there will be times I go to like Walmart or something here, right? And I'll find the people who wear the masks and they either don't cover their nose or they put them on their chin and be like, "It's still on my face." I'm like, that's as useful as putting a fucking condom on your arm. Yeah, you have it on, but it's on the wrong fucking spot, dude.
Yeah. Wrong appendage.
That hasn't even. I wasn't even aware of people putting it on their chins before I started seeing memes about it. I have not seen it once here or heard of it from my friends.
I think one of the funniest bit of mask, I guess you would protest, I guess. Yeah, mask protest.
I heard about memes.
one of the funniest bits of mask protest I've seen, and by funny I mean ridiculous and stupid, but I saw a dude wearing a black mask, right? And it had on it typed on, "This mask is completely useless." And I'm just like, wow, you bitch.
I mean, depends on what you make the mask out of.
See, this is okay. I'm about to go on a quick rant real quick. This is why I believe in America, The biggest thing about us as Americans is that we are a country that bases ourselves around a very specific type of business model. Sales, sales, sales. That's why we are so distracted. That's why we don't care, because we are so used to an ad-heavy marketed environment. That is why we couldn't appeal to people about the pandemic and their well-being, because
people don't benefit from it.
Because we're too self-centered. Exactly. That's why, instead of that, you should have used a different fear tactic. QAnon became a big thing, which there's a bit of an inside joke going on right now with all of us about how I made a comment the other day in our group chats about how I thought Alex Jones might be QAnon.
Oh, I don't. Yeah,
I would believe it. But that internal joke aside, I don't have time to explain it because it went down a big rabbit hole. We should have instead marketed the fucking masks as a deterrent against facial recognition. Because that is a news article that came out, especially about the protest, how cops were complaining that they couldn't identify people because masks were messing up the facial recognition software that they had, which blows my mind. But that also means that there's a huge security issue that people aren't even aware of. They're so oblivious because they want to argue about being sick versus healthy about these masks. They don't realize all these other things that are really getting stripped away from them. So I think we just marketed it wrong, and that's why we fucked up.
I think a lot of anti-maskers just don't understand why they're mad. I mean,
they don't. No, they fundamentally do not understand. They cite facts and articles that are completely disproven, that are wrong, and I shouldn't have said facts because they're not. But no, trust me, it is crazy the rabbit hole I went down. Also, with some of these people,
all those dumb Facebook memes about how wearing a mask is like a new form of restriction. They're trying to control you. They're trying to take your rights away, right? And I'm just like, okay, all right, yeah, you're right. They are trying to take my rights away. While I'm at it, let me make your sandwich without any gloves, right?
Right.
Let me go out, and not wear any sunscreen, get my skin burnt up because it's restricting my rights. My skin needs to be free. Let me take off my shit. Let's get naked. It's just like what kind of logic is that? Like, no, you're not losing any rights. It's just a basic.
But it doesn't matter because they don't want to think. They just want to be emotional. Remember?
Oh yeah.
As soon as you get somebody emotional, logic goes out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And we've known this. That's the biggest problem with Americans is that we allow ourselves to be emotional because we don't want to do the hard work and critically think. What was it? Last week was like the highest on the highest single week of cases, new cases in America. It was like 70,000 cases in 1 week. Like that's fucking insane, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and this is the product of our ignorance. And then there are people who keep saying the virus isn't real. These numbers are fake. Nobody knows anybody that's died from this. And that was something I've heard a lot. I literally almost started fist fights over that. That's how mad they got me with that shit.
I've heard that one before too. From people that I know, like people who are friends.
No, these are like my coworkers were saying that shit. And then meanwhile, I have family members who are in those ICU units working, because they're nurses and stuff, trying to help people. They were there when this shit hit first day. They saw how bad it can get. They have witnessed people die countless times because of this. We're in Houston. Well, I've said that multiple times in the past on these episodes. We were one of the first hard-hit cities whenever the virus came out. We saw just how bad it was. Luckily, Houston's not as bad as some other places that I've seen, but Houston's still pretty bad when it comes to the ignorance here.
Yeah.
I still go to Walmart and see people without their masks. I still go to the mall and see people without their masks. When there's signs everywhere that says you cannot enter this building without a mask.
Yeah.
Which then goes to me saying, why is the staff not doing anything? Found out why. Because their bosses don't yell at them whenever they get onto customers about not wearing masks. Because they feel like it's impeding customer values.
Yeah,
that is the rhetoric I keep hearing.
I'm very glad that at my place they got more strict about the masks.
Good,
because my manager, I told you about that incident, and I gotta give that guy props. I think at a certain point in my job, I've learned to respect my manager more than anyone else at that location. I think I started off getting kind of mad at him every once in a while, but then I noticed, oh no, this guy's actually really good at his job. I respect him. Whenever he started getting mad, because he would actually verbally tell customers to get out of the store And I thought, man, this guy's crazy. Like, that's no way to talk to a person. And then this happens, and I'm like, you know what? He was right this whole time.
Right?
Like these customers don't deserve shit. Like,
while I get myself looked up on the campaign trail, I know, Peter, like I said, you had some more articles and facts about the pandemic.
Indeed. So I indeed do have all kinds of numbers scribbled up on my notes here, and then some stuff state specifically in the US, and then even in Europe and Australia.
Okay.
So all total cases so far have reached, we're nearing in 9 million in the US, 8,932,985 so far. And do you know what the leading state actually would be?
See, that's been changing like week by week. That's the problem. I know we just recently have new cases going on in Wisconsin, but I'm not sure who's actually leading.
I know New York was for a while, right?
For a little bit. I know Florida and Texas were up there for a long while.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's still Florida.
Who's the state with the highest number right now?
That would be Texas, with California becoming close second.
You know what? That makes sense.
It makes sense, but I'm kind of upset because not only as a Texan, I was born in California, so I'm like, yeah, exactly.
Texas so far accounts for just over 950,000 cases out of those almost 9 million.
Fucking hell, man.
Honestly, they should just put a giant dome around us.
Right?
Yeah, like The Simpsons, the movie, this shit.
And then new cases just during this week, or actually during this month, daily has come up to anywhere from 60 to 80,000. And of course on the rise daily. And Texas leads this statistic as well, with over 7,000 new cases every day.
Shit, man.
That's crazy.
It doesn't surprise me, but it's still really sad to hear.
It is. Then, so far, the death toll is 227,000, with we just breached a little over 1,000 daily.
Yeah, and sorry, real quick, I'm just going to intervene with this one fact that I just found.
Go on.
So going back to the masks real quick, most people already kind of feel like in America, the pandemic won. You know, we gone from this mentality of it's just like the flu to it's not real, it's a hoax to it won, so why keep trying, even though we never tried in the first place. And I'm looking at the stat now that Dr. Fauci was part of, addressing and saying, like, if everyone wore masks today, we could possibly eliminate the risk of losing 85,000 people. 85,000 people if everyone just started wearing their masks now. And it makes me think back to an old Chinese proverb that I like to cite. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So yes, we could have gotten much farther ahead if we started from day one and was on top of this shit, but we didn't. So it takes us doing it now. And again, now we still aren't, and it's pissing me off.
And just imagine all the lost billions because of it as well.
I'm forever going to blame the United States and the way we've been handling this.
It's Trump.
I'm going to blame us, this country, and Trump for delaying the Dune movie that was supposed to come out this December.
I wouldn't say to blame you for all of it. While the US does account for around 20% of worldwide cases, there's still bad shit going on in Italy, and French and Germany just blew up as well. I'm going to go into that.
I heard about that. Yeah, that's wild. France is on some kind of like
lockdown again?
Yeah, lockdown.
Yeah, I can't remember because I'll be honest, our news is pretty saturated with ourselves right now.
Yeah, but we'll go into that then when I get there.
Yes, please.
But with a bit of light in the darkness, the amount of recovered is still substantial, which is nearing 5.5 million out of those near 9 million cases. But taking into account the recovered and the death toll, that still does leave over 3.2 million active cases, which you honestly think, like, how many hospital beds are there?
I mean, there's only so much.
There's only so much. And I'm not sure if all of you are aware, this happened way back, like somewhere in the middle or the end of March this year. Are you aware of what the military's two hospital ships are?
Military to hospital. No, I can't say we are, or at least I'm
Right.
not.
So one of them, I forgot their names, but there were two of them, and they hadn't been mobilized. If I remember correctly, I hadn't looked into this much, but if I remember correctly, the last time they were mobilized was for Operation Desert Storm in the
Oh
Middle East.
shit, that was a long time
But do know,
ago.
but that is the last event that I remember for them. And one was, I believe, stationed in New York at some point,
Okay.
where they would get in, they would offer help for the non-virus patients there. So they would be transferred from hospitals to the boats, while the hospitals on the ground with better equipment and supplies could focus on the virus patients.
All right, cool. Like this is all new information to me. I didn't know any of this, prior to today. Like all these like once in a year kind of news headlines have been happening every week. So it's
Yeah,
constantly like you just
you
get
don't know
oversaturated so quickly.
what is a main story anymore.
Yeah, no, like our headlines are no longer headlines in an hour. That's how fast we're getting news now.
It is.
There's so much drama. It's so
I
crazy.
just looked like New York Times, and there's like 7 loops every day or more,
Oh, Jesus.
and most of them, if not all, about COVID, of course. But moving on to, I accounted to world cases as well. So in the world, in total, there is over 44.5 million cases, which
44.5 million cases.
over, yes.
Real quick for comparison, because I looked into it for our first COVID episode that we covered. The worst pandemic in history, the H1N1 Spanish flu in 1918, that
Mhm.
affected 50 million people worldwide, and 5 million people died because of it. And that took over the course of the 3 years where that pandemic was really at its worst. That's where those numbers come from over the course of 3 years. We've gotten this number in our first year. Just think about that. 44
On
million people in our first year.
Yeah, but that's on cases though. On deaths, we're not looking as bad, but if
Yeah,
things don't get
what's the death
better, it's
toll?
eventually going to get there as well. So on death cases, we have over 1.1, nearing 1.2 million.
Yeah, oh God, it's so terrifying. With the first the H1N1 Spanish flu pandemic, like I said, 5 million people died and 50 million people were infected. So that's a ratio of like 1 to 10. With this, like I said, that pandemic took over 3 years. With this one, in our first year, we've got 44 million people infected, and you said it was like 1.6 million that died. Yeah, like it's not the death rate to infection rate isn't the same, but the speed of infection is what makes this virus
It
so
is.
terrifying. And
And
I
simply
wish
the
more
overload
people
on the medical
were
system.
aware of that. Yeah, it's just it's crazy. It's a crazy mess out there, dude. I don't get it.
And
I don't get how people can see these numbers and then say it's a lie or it's some government conspiracy or some coup to start a new world order or some shit like that. Like, no, like this is real. People die from this. People are affected by this. Our economy is tanked because of this. Like, it's
and
crazy.
we get closer to that 50 million goal than I
Every
guess
day.
you could say, with
And
so far, just yesterday, 357,704 new cases.
oh my
So we
God.
are going fast.
People ask why our generation don't want kids. And this is the answer I want to give them.
Yeah.
Because we can't handle ourselves, apparently. We fuck ourselves over, dude. Like, this is why we don't want kids, man. It's crazy to think about this. You read about these events in history books, you never think you'll be a part of it. You'll never realize where you'll be when it happens to you. But it does happen to you, whether you like it or not. And it's just, oh, it's crazy, dude.
It really is.
It's just, everyone's in a shithole because of this, and I get it. But our policies, especially here in the States, make it worse. And a big reason, especially why we focus so much on the States, is because whether we like it or not, we have like the biggest ripple effect worldwide. What happens here in the States affects everyone. whether we like it or not.
Oh, especially
Yeah,
nowadays.
because the States is the capitalist powerhouse of the world, effectively.
Well, we were in the 70s whenever the
Well, yeah, the
the
economic boom and
international
whatnot.
The UN?
United Nations.
There
There
we
we
go.
go. That's what I was
Ah,
looking for. When the United Nations got together in the 70s and based the world economy off the US dollar, we were a powerhouse then for sure. But that meant ultimately anything that happened in America affected the world because anything in America affected our economy.
and at
So
least I
yeah,
think
that's where
so far it's even true today, even though it's not to the same degree as then.
well, still, the world bases a lot of its, infrastructure on America, which makes no sense to me, but okay. But yeah, no, it's just crazy, So to kind of pull it back for the pandemic, and just focus more on U.S. policies and everything. The unfortunate news is, as bad as the pandemic is, we also have elections this year.
Mm-hmm.
And could not have been a more pivotal time to take care of all this. Even without the pandemic, this was already going to be a problem. With the racial protests and, the discriminations and stripping of rights between women, LGBTQ, and people of color, all kinds of stuff. It's just racist, sexist, homophobic, and just all kinds of crazy people in power. So I looked up real quick, about the 5 big issues that Americans are really focused on this election. Of course, COVID-19, this pandemic takes center stage. This is the one that everyone wants to get addressed. We had one stimulus check, and we were promised another and never got it. We were promised more.
Wait, is it like the stimulus never happened? Like after the first one?
No, we got the first stimulus check of $1,200, and that was it. And even still, right now, there's a lot of people who never got that check. Because a lot of those checks were going towards, dead people and stuff like that, and just it was constant mishandling. And a lot of people want to blame the IRS, but personally, I looked in my own free time because I'm one of those people that say fuck the IRS, fuck taking my taxes, XYZ. But I looked more into it, and over the years, the IRS has been getting the shit end of the stick for a long time. They are what you would think a true government agency is. Boring people behind their office just doing, crunching numbers and stuff. They aren't there trying to be the evil, organizations.
They're not ICE.
They're not ICE. Yes, exactly. They're not ICE. They're not the CIA. They're not the FBI. They're not any of these, horrible other 3-letter government agencies. They are truly just trying to help everybody. But they've been stripped of funding and employees for years, that they've brought them down to this incapable organization, the government organization, to take care of this. So when the pandemic hit, they were woefully unprepared to take care of everything. So I don't necessarily blame them for the shortcomings with, the checks and everything. I don't. I blame the Senate and the House of Representatives that have been, arguing, the Republicans that have been arguing and lobbying to get them to take down their power and everything, which makes no sense. It's just crazy to think about because, with Trump trying to fucking gamble, our stimulus checks during the election, saying how trying to make people soft and sad that he might actually lose the election and stuff like that. Saying stuff like, if I lose, I'll have to leave the country. Well, no fucking shit. Because if you lose, people are going to want to fucking kill you.
Donald Trump is a fucking baby.
He's
a child.
He's a man-child.
He's a giant man-child because everything is an attack on him. It's like, the cruel media and their rude, questions. What am I going to do? Everyone's asking me these very difficult questions. Dude, I don't know what to do.
He stopped his own 60-minute interview because he didn't like the question. Yeah. Like, who has ever done that before? Who?
Exactly.
Oh God, it's so mind-bending. It's a literal mind fuck, and that's only the tip of the iceberg because a lot of his policies have led into the second big issue that everyone is afraid of and wants to get addressed. During this election season is the economy and job losses. Trump promised all these jobs, especially to the coal industry, the gas industry, all these fossil fuel industries. And they're the ones who got, fucked over, the most. Especially after that came the automotive industry. He promised a big surge in automotive industry jobs here in the States, and they got fucked over. They lost more people.
So here's the funny thing about Americans and how uninformed we are. Did you know there's actually quite a bit of Latino people that are voting for Trump?
Yes.
And it blows my mind because their reasoning tends to be that he's going to make the economy better. Bitch, it's been 4 years.
He made it worse in the 4 years.
I know.
Well, also, kind of a little personal here. So there was a girl that I was really interested in the beginning of this year, and I was talking to her and all that. But she is very Latino, but her Republican side kept coming out, and that's what made me ultimately be like, nah,
Yeah, cut it out.
I'm good, because she had some very strong opinions about LGBTQ people. I'm like, that's not okay.
That's a big
Knowing I'm bisexual, and you want to tell me this to my face and claim it's an opinion whenever you're saying I don't want you to have the same rights. Yeah, no. I had just out of curiosity, I looked onto her Facebook page last night, and there's a big ass banner that says Trump Pence on it. I'm like, you fucking idiots. Oh god.
But yeah, no, that's I think that's a massive turnoff. Like, that's straight up like, nope, I'm not gonna deal with this. I'm not even gonna try. Not worth it.
No, it's not. And I can't with this, and with, everyone trying to move towards a more remote, learning and work environment and everything. It's definitely hard. This is definitely going to be an adjustment period that I really don't think we're going to get back from. And so it's a big understatement when I say that this particular issue might be the more critical one to focus on in the long run, the job losses and the economy tanking and everything. Yes, it is an important issue, but by not addressing the more pressing one at the moment, the fucking pandemic and our health and everything like that, and stuff like that, is going to be ultimately what fucks the economy and job situation even more. Because we have shown that we don't care about our fucking employees. We don't care about the people that we employ to work at these big corporations, because they're just numbers on a fucking chalkboard to the higher ups or whatever. They're just, data on a screen, and I hate that mentality.
Yeah. No, when I hear about that kind of shit happening all the time, layoffs and all that, I mean, it pisses me off because I feel like, all right, like, I've never been to Disney World, but I feel really bad for all the people who lost their jobs, who are like actors or whatever. Because I mean, those people probably worked really hard to get into like the position that they were on, right? Happiest place on earth, but
yeah, I mean, like, I'm looking at some of these numbers right now. It's like the Pew Research Center found in August that the economy was the top issue for 76% of respondents. 76, of course, obviously more important to Republican voters than the Democrats, but still 76 people that were asked about this complained that the economy and our job losses are one of the most pressing matters to deal with right now. Going down a couple lines, it says how the U.S. is dealing with the same economic fallout as many other parts of the world, with our GDP falling 32%. 32%.
That's fucking
in the
massive.
second quarter of 2020. So that means even before July, we were tanking. U.S. unemployment almost hit record lows this past year, hitting 7.9% in September, after reaching an all-time high of 14.7% in April. That sounds great. However, don't trust this number, because I did some more research last night about why this is happening. And this is because a lot of these manufacturing companies and stuff like that are just wanting to get a surge of people in to make it look like we're healthy and our economy is growing. But this is probably going to have even more devastating effects later on. This is going to lead to more people being sick and more layoffs and more people, who can't go back to work and suffering pre-existing conditions because of the virus. And that'll fuck their fucking health insurance up. And it just will cascade into all these other issues. It's just crazy.
I'm actually glad you started talking about the number, the job shortage, because I saw that percentage as well and thought that, okay, that it was really bad back then. Now it's better. But I hadn't actually done any background research on it. So I'm glad that you brought it up.
It's made to look great. And that's the biggest thing about Trump's policies right now, is that he doesn't actually care about businesses. He doesn't actually care about people. He wants things to look good on paper so he can wave it around in front of everyone and get them emotional again.
Oh, the ratings and everything. He always talks about the ratings. Like how good were the ratings on that speech?
Which makes me laugh, is how many times I've listened to him saying how he's like the most, like he's done the most for all the black voters in America and this, that, and the other. I saw his approval ratings for specifically black people in America. It's 90% Joe Biden, 8% Trump.
Yeah. No.
That is the biggest difference in any approval rating from any demographic you can look at.
Donald Trump is a liar.
We know this.
This is not that's the thing though, because we all know this. We all know Donald Trump is a liar. We all know he's like a creep, like and a sexual predator. The rest of the world seems to just turn a blind eye and not even like I'm still voting. I don't care. Like let's just push it to the side, like the F sign shit, like whatever, just gonna focus on this. Just no, don't even show it to me. I just want to live in my fantasy world where Donald Trump is president again.
Just he blows my mind. His self-centered attitude about everything is almost incomprehensible if I wasn't watching it happen in front of my eyes.
I think it's hilarious that this like old ass like concept of trickle down economics. A lot of people seem to still fall for it. The concept that if Mr. Big Guns over here is making a shit ton of money, I'm gonna make a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's not how it works. If Donald Trump, first of all, he sucks at managing shit because apparently he's the only person who seems to be, well, not the only person, but he seems to find a way to run a casino to the ground, even though casinos are meant to rip people off.
Right?
Like, how the hell did he do that? I'm just thinking about it. It's all just making sense.
Wasn't that casino thing during a depression though?
I'm going to be honest. I do not know off the top of my head.
I have a faint memory, but maybe.
That's a good point. Well, to be fair, yeah, if it was during a depression, then whatever. But still, he is a TV guy, and people should know better that reality TV stars tend to be liars. They don't always say the truth. They don't always tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then, of course, there's so many other issues that we want to get into, but I'm going to stick to just these next three topics, and then that'll be it for me. Of course, with Trump still trying to pull everything he can to stay in power, he got his fucking, the Supreme Court nominee that he chose was fucking approved recently in a 52-48 vote from the Senate. Amy Coney Barrett got sworn in like a day or two ago. And Trump has basically ensured his legacy at this point now. Because it doesn't matter if we vote him out. He has enough people in the fucking Supreme Court and Congress now that his policies and legacies will forever be with us now.
Yeah.
It's going to be an uphill battle to overturn any single one of them. We have Amy Coney Barrett for fucking decades now. We don't have a choice. And it blows my mind, because this is the same woman who was dodging questions about her opinions on abortion rights and LGBTQ laws and XYZ and stuff like that. Same woman who was nominated and was paraded about with Trump after her nomination. No Supreme Court judge, just parades themselves around with a fucking president. They don't do that when you get inaugurated. But she did. Yeah. When she got sworn in, she went in for a photo op with Trump shortly after that. Kind of like a big middle finger to the entire goddamn country.
I also think it's crazy that Donald Trump's been trying to not only like win again, getting her 4 years in, but he keeps talking about wanting to go even longer. And I'm just like, well, yeah, that's the biggest red flag if there ever was one.
Here's the biggest thing that pissed me off. Was that the last time we were trying to, during like Obama's presidency, when we were getting a new Supreme Court judge, it happened a year before Obama's final year in office.
Yeah.
And Mitch McConnell said it's too close to fucking hold this election for a new Supreme Court judge at the time. Yet when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died a month before our election, he said, no, we need to push this through now. Like, I'm sorry, what?
Hypocrite.
Yes, because Mitch McConnell's a fucking animal. All he thinks about is the money in himself and what he can do to stay in power. He is the worst side of Trump because he's actually smart. He's the guy who actually knows how to do his job, and he manipulates it for his own benefits. That's what's scary about Mitch McConnell, and other people like even fucking like Jared Kushner and stuff like that, like all these other big names that we always hear on the TV and just think fuck that asshole. Yeah. Even if you don't know why, they're part of what's fucking you over, and just. All these people had a hand in getting this through, and it pisses me off. These are just part of the many issues that have led to what is probably the last bit of good news of voter turnout. We have the most amount of people voting, early voting, now more than ever. I mean, we broke records after records, day after day, with all these different counties and different states having, record turnouts of people coming in, staying in line 3, 4, 5 hours. So I saw an article of a woman who stayed in line for 13 hours just to vote.
Wasn't there also a statistic about how we got like the most people in their like early 20s that are voting?
Yeah,
right now?
The most young voters ever,
which is great because I feel like a lot of these people were like they were teenagers
because
when
we're
Trump became
finally
president.
done. And that's the thing that also blew my mind. 10 years ago, if you told me Texas might become a blue state, I would have laughed in your fucking face. But now it's a real possibility that we're going to change into a blue state for good.
Probably. I mean,
especially with all the young voters coming out, we might change the state. Yeah. And I really hope so, because I've been really kind of upset with how Abbott's taking care of policies here in Texas. I've been really vocal about it online about how I didn't like his business strategies and his, lax approach to these mask mandates and stuff like that. It blows my mind and it pisses me off, and I could go about it forever, but I'm not, because there's so many other problems that are worth addressing. And especially we cannot overlook the importance of the racial injustice protests and the crime and policing debates that have been going on about, taking the stand to, control our police, because they have just gotten rampant, to control the discrimination against, people of color who have been needlessly beaten and murdered and just targeted for all kinds of stuff. And just it's senseless, it's irresponsible, it's reckless, and it's endangering the populace. It's crazy. That's why I love what Mayor Turner did for us here in Houston. He has a committee set, and it's one of the things I'm holding my breath on, because we really need to see how it plays out. But he set up a committee for the public to bring in ideas and suggestions about how to reform the police. We're not defunding the police, but we're looking to reform it. Whether it's creating new laws, creating new structures, or even new systems for, like, big thing with people who have, mental disabilities. You don't call the cops for those people. You call medical professionals to come and help, address the situation. You can find all kinds of stories about how police don't know how to handle people who are deaf, who have autism, who, have, but they have some, something incapable going on in their brain that makes them more or less not able to function like everyone else.
Wouldn't it be great if police officers had solutions to things that weren't just let's shoot them?
Yes,
like that.
Well, again, this also goes back to how we don't even train our police officers long enough. You know how on average how quickly you can become a cop from day one of training to the last day?
I know it's like less than a year, right?
Dude, it's like 5 weeks. 5 weeks.
Wait.
Internationally, the average is 2 years. And this is definitely 5 weeks is definitely a number that's in certain counties, because there are other counties that have, longer training times versus shorter training times and stuff like that. But that, when I saw that number, I'm like, that is unacceptable.
Okay, my question is, has this been always the case?
As far as I know, I'll be honest, America's policing situation is not something I've looked into extensively. It is on the table to look into in a future episode. But like I said, there's a lot of other stuff I wanted to get into, and I do try not to flood our content with what I feel are important episodes worth covering, like today, because there's all kinds of other stories I do want to talk about, and some more fun ones, some more just mysterious and dark. But this, like I said, it's election day when this episode comes out.
Yeah, I asked
so it's so important to talk about everything.
Yeah,
I asked because I would understand if it was. I would more understand. Still, it's 5 weeks, way too fucking short, no matter how you look at it. But I would more understand it if it was shortened to 5 weeks from whatever it was before, because of this situation and increasing riots and whatnot.
No, but that's a number that came from before the pandemic even happened.
That is,
yeah. So no, this has been a long-standing issue. And other things that I found is, like, in comparison to, like, training for de-escalation versus training for armed defense. One statistic that I found, I'm pulling this one off the top of my head because I don't want to try to fight to look for it right now. But it was something along the lines of there's like only 80 hours put into de-escalation training. No, not 80. It was like 18 hours put into de-escalation training, and like 135 hours put into armed combat training and stuff like that, and armed defense training. So there is a massive difference in the amount of training you receive for all these issues. So already we have cops that are not trained properly. they're not given the adequate amount of time to address these different situations properly. And they're handling situations where they should not be the ones involved. I mean, I've talked to people about how, like, we should not be giving police stations more money to deal with these issues. And they keep telling me, it was like, well, do you support police officers? I'm like, if a police force was effective at their job, I would support it. If they handled their finances accordingly, I would support it. But they don't. And they always give me, shit talks about this, that, and the other. And without dipping into those debates so much, my final point always went to, we don't need to add, more funding to them. We don't. We can get by with the funding that they have, because if you just eliminated all drug-related, offenses for the most part, you would have enough money left over for them to actually do their job. You would. So there's no excuse to give them more money. What we need is to set up the proper care system for these other, what we consider offenses, and they're not. They're people who are sick. They're people who need help. And just, it's crazy. We send them out to do jobs that they aren't fit for and they aren't trained for, and we get disasters, and we are either told to fucking, be quiet about it because there's nothing that we can do about it, or that that's just how life is, so fucking deal with it. And it blows my mind. It's so baffling. Mm-hmm. But like, I'm glad that this year, we're going through this whole, reformation of our police departments and how we, address people of color and people of ability and XYZ. And it's been needed. It's been definitely needed for a long time. But it's one of those situations where I also kind of feel like, is it too little, too late? I don't know. I really don't. I hope it's not. But we really have to see whether we got 4 more years of Trump or if we got Sleepy Joe. Honestly, because I'm gonna level with you guys. They're both terrible candidates, in my opinion. They are. However, it is more important that we get Trump out.
Yeah,
I do acknowledge that. But I also just am ashamed that we as Americans let ourselves get this bad, that we gave ourselves the 2 worst options. Because we could, there's hundreds of other people.
I could think of a few other options that would be way worse than Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I don't say Joe Biden is necessarily bad, because he makes bad policies. I say he's bad because he's inactive and unaware. Trump goes out of his way to make things worse. Biden's just aloof and unaware on a lot of things. But even still, it's like not even that, like our policies, our politicians have been held to such a low standard that this is what we get. And then we get upset about it. Like, what did you expect would happen? What did you expect? I don't know. I know I'm ranting about that again. It's just, it's crazy. God, is it crazy? I haven't even...
Not gonna lie.
No, I was like, I didn't even get to Breonna Taylor's trial, which started even more shit. This is probably the last big thing we'll get onto, because I could talk about all the riots and everything, especially like with the Kenosha shooter and everything. It's been crazy. And with, Chaz, the autonomous zone that was set up in Portland, and how all that was going on with the
Okay, I need to clear up for myself. Is the Chaz the autonomous zone, and is it related to Antifa?
No.
Okay.
A lot of politicians throw that name on there, but that's not what Chaz is about. Chaz was set up as an autonomous zone up in Portland because the people there were just sick and tired of the police interventions and the federal agents, getting involved in their lives, on the streets and in the protests, taking such, abusive actions. So they set up their own autonomous zone, and they fenced it off and everything. And there was a couple nights where things were a little shaky and stuff, but for the most part, everyone was just trying to have a good time. Everyone was laughing, singing, and, just chilling. And then, of course, police and people who we believe were police were trying to incite, drama there to justify a reason to go in and all this. And
right. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's not get too far into that.
Yeah, no, it got crazy because that, again, just protests alone are always a rabbit hole. But they, speaking of the protests, there was definitely more, outcry. There was a whole, what they nicknamed almost a lay-in or a sleep-in here in Houston after the mistrial that happened with Breonna Taylor. And I say mistrial because there were 4 officers involved and not a single one is in jail. The jury wasn't given an accurate depiction of what happened. They were only given the police side and given the police there. Because I believe it was the Kentucky's Attorney General said, yeah, no, this case was not handled appropriately. And, because whenever they came out and said that these officers were not found guilty, fucking Kentucky basically burned down almost night in a sense. They didn't literally burn down, but there were tons of riots that were happening. There were tons of like in Louisville where this was happening, they had riots like day one. When as soon as they heard it, people went to the street and they were done. Here in Houston, luckily we were a little more civil, but we had our own protest spike during that time too. And around the country, we had a lot more people who were just done because they heard the hearing and they were not having it. That's what we need. We need more people who are willing to be vocal.
Yeah.
We cannot be quiet about this. We have power as a populace. If we don't like something, it takes us saying, no, we're not going to accept this. We can't just bow down and take whatever, but we do. And that's what's led us to these problems, because we let ourselves have a corrupt government and accept it as that's what's always going to be, when we have all these other good examples, at least better examples than ourselves. They may not be ideal, but there's tons of European countries, before the pandemic, who were thriving because of their economic policies and their government policies and everything. And it blows my mind that we can't do that here. And as Americans, we can't see that as a possibility. Why can't we see having better as a necessity and something we can achieve? I don't get it.
Yeah.
I just don't.
I think the last thing we need is to just become subservient to whatever power is controlling us.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know, especially with this episode, that we were kind of just in a way just rambling a lot about what's been going on, but this has been our lives. In a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, if anybody's listening to this episode, it's crazy. It's hellish, and it's important that people understand what's been going on. It's important that people think beyond themselves, because we live in an ever-connected world that's growing by the second. And especially with this pandemic, we see just how connected we are to each other, to the people that we don't like. If I get sick, that person has a higher chance of getting sick just by proximity. We live too close to each other. Our countries do so much business with each other online. Our connectability to each other is growing, so more people are talking. So yes, it's easy to spread disinformation, but it's also easier to learn the facts. It's easy to see what's going on in other countries because it's so easy to talk to these people. So there's no excuse for not knowing at this point. You don't know because you don't want to know. That's how I see it. You've had the time, you've had the ability to get better. Now you just need the willpower. And with this election, of course, we encourage you, all Americans, please. It is so important to vote. It is so monumentously important to vote. Because, yes, we may get fucked over with what Trump's done so far, but we have a choice to make it worse or make it better now. I'm voting to make it better. I may not have voted for Biden, but of course I certainly didn't vote for Trump.
Who did you vote for?
I voted Green Party.
You threw away your vote, dude.
I did not throw away my vote.
Yes, you did.
No,
that vote's not going anywhere.
No, it's not that, because we need a 5% vote to bring him onto the next ballot. I'm thinking long term. Yes, this election's already fucked, but we need a complete reformation of how we do our voting in the first place.
I agree with that.
So that's why I voted Green Party. Because if we can get to the 5%, then we can get that on the national ballot.
Has that
No, it's not happened before, but it's not impossible.
How many people are voting Green, anyways?
You'll be surprised. I think last I checked,
how many people voted Green last year? Oh, I'm sorry, last election.
Not enough to be relevant, but this year.
What makes you think more people are going to vote Green this year?
Because we've already at, I think we're already at 3.2%, which is triple over what we've already gotten other years. Like I said, I already know my vote's probably going to go to Biden. I'm aware of that. But by putting my name under, the Green Party, it pushes for Hawkins to be put on the ballot, which will finally add a third candidate to the ballot. So it's not just winner takes all kind of policy of this guy or this guy. It introduces another element that we've never had before. So yes, I'm like I said, I'm fully aware, where my vote's going towards, but there's other problems that need to be addressed. Like here in America, we need to change our entire voting system in the first place. Instead of winner takes all, we need a ranked voting system. We need to be able to see every single candidate and rank them how we like them. That'll be a much more fair and much more accurate representation of what the people want. So that's why I'm pushing towards this.
I'm all for more options. That is so. I mean, I'm not gonna get into my voting situation, but let's just say I'm. It's not easy.
It's not.
Yeah.
Okay, I was very wrong about the percentage, but either way, like I said, it needs to happen. That's why like I'm even wanting to like start messaging or not messaging. I keep saying that, but like sending letters to our local congressmen and everything, and even in our city for our local elections, change how we do our votes. We need to. It's important both on the small scale and the large scale. And I have spent this past month just researching and absorbing as much information as I can. So I've been on my soapbox for a while. But this was definitely going to be the last time I get on it for a while because it's so pivotal. It's so monumentous is probably the best word. But before we continue rambling nonsense, like I always do, we're going to go ahead and leave this here. Like I said, this is going to be the last kind of informal episode we do as we are going through a massive restructure change. So hopefully next week, I will see you guys there, and it won't be too jarring at first, but I hope you guys like the new format that we are coming up with. As we're adding some new segments, we're adding some new people on too that are going to be helping us out, like I mentioned at the beginning. So there's going to be a lot more variety coming on. We got some more big news that we are just waiting to announce whenever we get the clearance. So we can't wait to see you guys there. We got a lot of stuff, fun stuff planned, and we got 2 months left until next year. So hopefully 2021 is it's going to be a big change. Hopefully we got a lot more good news, both for the world and for ourselves.
Here's hoping.
So without further ado, I'm going to bid you guys adieu. You guys have a good one, and we love you.